Hi, I have chosen the topic globalisation and Ireland's membership of the EU. The main reason being that it is an area that I would have knowledge in but not necessarily have strong knowledge in. There is much room for me as a teacher to learn more academically and also from the students. They usually know more than they think. It's also a hot topic at the moment, always in the news, with the impact of FDI companies closing and moving to lower cost economies. It impacts all ways of life now, and it is important for students to know and understand why that is. One lesson is not going to do that, so this would happen over a number of lessons and would also slot into other areas of the business course. International trade and the EU are areas that fit very well together, and is why I chose to introduce the two together in one lesson. I will obviously expand on each throughout the course. So this lesson will be for fifth year students. This will be a very discussion focused lesson, as all my lessons will be, but I think to really teach a topic like this one, you have to discuss and sort through ideas and questions. Globalisation, as I mentioned before, is such a hot topic. Ireland's relationship with the global economy is very important and is looked upon as a country to locate big multinational companies in, and the reason for this will be discussed and debated in class. Multinational companies leave Ireland as well, and this is important, and the reasons for it we will discuss in the lesson. I want the students to understand how international trade and multinational companies affect Ireland's economy. How does it affect them? They may not think it does, but I believe if students can put a real-life scenario or case study to theory, then it is easier to learn, understand and apply to exam questions. Brexit is also important, and I want the students to understand its importance and how Brexit affects Ireland's economy. This topic was chosen as it tends to be a topic that is very text heavy and can be viewed as challenging. I hope to make it less challenging by introducing videos and articles and group discussion so that the students can find out what they know first of all, and then add to their already existing knowledge of the topic. The areas I will look at are: what is globalisation and international trade? How is international trade measured? The benefits to Ireland of international trade, opportunities and challenges of international trade, what is the European Union, how are EU policies and laws made, and what are the benefits to Ireland of EU membership. I think students will know more than they think they do. I will get them to watch a YouTube video that explains globalisation. We will have an hour-long session for this and pair up in their groups to discuss. I will also get them to watch a video on foreign direct investment, and we will pair off in our groups and discuss class also. I do not want to give them all the answers here, and I will work with them to come up with the answers with them. It is all student-centered learning. They are more likely to remember if they devise the answers themselves. In order to do this, I will incorporate strategies such as blue sky thinking in order to access the student's imagination and start the flow of the lesson. If they can activate their imagination at the start of the lesson, then asking them for ideas from then on in will be easier. It also gives them confidence in their abilities and answers. Jigsaw and think, pair, share are also strategies that I will use throughout the lesson. Group work is integral to my method of teaching. Difficult areas I would envisage for some or all of the students to grasp would be visible and invisible exports, for one, and here I would explain the terms with a figure like this one. Images sometimes explain key terms better than any text can do. The second area I feel might be difficult to explain would be the balance of trade and the balance of payments. Again, I will do demonstrations on the board and PowerPoint and use figures such as this one to explain the message. Then I'll get the students to practice examples from their textbook. The structure of my lesson encompasses 5 key areas: the hook, activating prior knowledge, group work and class discussion, feedback, and reflection. The hook. This is my way of grabbing the students' attention right from the beginning. As I mentioned, this topic can be laborious, text-heavy, and uneventful, but to get them hooked from the beginning will be key for this lesson. Activating the students' prior knowledge means that they know more than they think. So activating their prior knowledge can increase their attention and make them think, hey, I actually get this topic. What more can I learn? Group work and class discussion keeps their attention span during class. They get to work with their peers, learn from each other, and develop new learning relationships. Feedback is crucial to any lesson. Students will only learn effectively if feedback is given. It shows them that you are listening to them and also that you care about whether they have grasped the subject or not. With regards to reflection, I'll be asking the students to keep a reflection journal about my subject. Asking them to write down what they liked or didn't like about a particular lesson, etc. helps them, but it also helps me. The actual structure of the lesson from introduction to conclusion will have the following format. Firstly, after I introduce the hook and have a brief discussion for about 5 to 10 minutes, I will discuss and agree the learning intentions and success criteria for that day's lessons. Write them on the board and agree on them as a group. As globalisation and international trade is a new topic, I will discuss and define any new terms that may arise in that topic and get the students to write them down. I will give a brief overview of the topic and then introduce a group exercise, discuss it, give feedback and allow time for reflection. I will then introduce the EU as a new topic and show how it is linked. At the end of the lesson, I will provide a summary of the day's lesson with the students' help. I'll go back to discuss the success criteria and see if they were achieved. I'll allow students to reflect on what was discussed and if they have any questions. About 10 minutes before the end of class, I will give homework and then we'll have a brief discussion on what the next day's lesson will contain. I have a lot of time to reflect on my teaching and learning methodologies since I started with Hibernia. I knew I didn't want to be like the teachers I had in school who stood, or mainly sat, in front of the class and read out notes for us to take down and learn verbatim. I will be a student-centred teacher. Class discussion and group work are key to my lessons. Blue sky thinking, particularly in this topic, is encouraged and students will be allowed to use their imagination to develop answers. No answer is silly or stupid. Students will see the links between topics such as international trade and the EU. I am inspired by the writings of David Thornburg. He talks about good teaching, particularly project-based learning, and how to make the adventure of learning joyous for all. Thornburg says the classroom needs 4 key strategies built into its day: the campfire, the watering hole, the cave, and life. As regards the campfire, this is the traditional lecture or storytelling style of teaching, i.e. introducing new key terms. The watering hole is the social learning that happens when we discuss concepts with each other. That's the group work and peer learning. The cave is the quiet reflection we do on our own. That's the student's reflective journal. And life is the application and transfer of knowledge, applying this to the real world scenarios and understanding the link, i.e. between international trade and the EU. My assessment strategy is more formative than summative, as it will allow me to assess how well the students are coping with the lesson I've planned. It is important for me that no student is left behind. The assessment will be a stress-free way for me to view this. I will be using Padlet as a method of group work capture and Blue Sky thinking capture. Formative will be used to develop short quizzes or tests for the students to take in real time, and a reflective journal will also be encouraged from me for the students to keep. I will ask the students to reflect on these questions for this particular lesson to write in their journal. What did you learn about globalisation and the EU? What do you know now that you didn't know before? What do you need more explanation on? What really made you think? And what was the most important thing that you learned? The challenges I foresee for this topic are boredom and differentiation. Keeping the students' attention is key here. The group work and class discussion should alleviate this challenge, but there is always the possibility that some students will be lost. This may be due to elements being too challenging or not challenging enough for students. Differentiation of my lesson is key. How I plan to overcome these potential challenges is through the use of digital technologies, reflection, and making sure my lessons are student-centred and not teacher-centred. Engaging the students through the use of digital technology tools such as Padlet, formative, and YouTube videos will go a long way towards keeping their attention and focus on the lesson. Through encouraging students to keep a reflective journal focuses their mind on the topic and the areas they find interesting, challenging, and areas they want to explore more. Finally, the lesson has to be student-focused. This will be ensured through prior knowledge activities, interactive class and group discussion, feedback on learning, and feedback on reflection. We learn from each other. This is important for me as a teacher. I want to be seen as an approachable teacher, one that encourages blue sky thinking and makes topics like globalisation and the EU interesting and centred solely on the students' knowledge and how we can increase it together. I want to know that today I inspired someone, I instilled a love of learning, and I made them want to come back tomorrow. Thank you.